innovation, and how
Pretty
can we
much.
put our finger on the pulse of innovation and add our little kind of flair to it. So yeah, I think part of it, yes, is thinking big enough, comma, um, being accessible or being around the stimuli to where thinking big is just the norm, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I had a friend recently that was start of the year, they were in Miami and Dubai and they were traveling, and like they just because they were in certain rooms were around more stimuli
Okay.
compared to like, and Melbourne has its heavy hitters as well, but compared to some of the stimuli that might be down here in Australia,
Yeah.
right? Because there's 27 million people here.
Mm.
There's other parts of the world like America where there's hundreds of millions of people, you know?
Yep.
When it comes to psychology, pivoting to psychology and influence, right? You are, you know, if we're looking at statistical perspective, one of the best brand architects, let's just say. You're probably a top one, top two, top 0.1% brand architect in Australia in terms of creating brands, right?
Yeah.
Online.
Yeah.
When it comes to psychology, what is one psychological thing that you think like a lot of people don't use that could really help their marketing or their sales when they're, you know, creating brands online?
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, I'm a very analytical person,
Yeah.
so I brainstorm so much and come up with so many, like, I mean, like a crazy amount of ideas. And I mean, now it's sped up my process using like ChatGPT, but like I will use that to like understand a bit more of what I'm, saying. But
Yeah.
even before that, um I put myself in the perspective of the customer every single time.
Right.
Yeah. Like putting myself in the shoes of whoever I'm targeting, because the way I see it, right? And this is my mentality, and I've always had this. There will always be someone that will spend
Yeah.
money, right? So it's just a matter of how you can target them for them to spend that money. Like, if that makes sense. It's like there's someone that will always want a service of 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. You could start that business, and you just got to target that person that's willing to spend 100,000 or 50,000, whatever it is. It may sound bold, but it's true. Like, I mean, like we've got a friend of ours who, yeah, runs like a jet industry. He's in the private jet industry. Essentially, he's got clients that will spend close to 700K for a couple trips.
100%. Yeah.
Like 100K, 150K for a one-way flight. There are people that are willing to spend. It's like there's never a limit when it comes to spending. So when it comes to certain things that are run like for events or for marketing gigs, there is always going to be someone there. There will always be, in my head, the way I see it is that event will always sell out in my head.
Yeah.
There's the abundance of, if there's 10,000 people that I have to sell tickets to,
Yeah.
I know there are 30,000 people that have the money to
100%.
spend
Real.
for that event. It's just
Real.
a matter of understanding that customer and then targeting them. And yeah, it's giving yourself enough time for essentially creating that plan, that marketing plan.
Mm.
But yeah, and I mean, I'm a big believer in the law of attraction, so I'm always attracting and positivity towards my belief that I'll always excel
Mm.
in whatever marketing gig that I do.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's a good point, man. There's always people that are going to be able to afford that service or that thing.
whatever you're
And
targeting. Yeah, yeah.
like you said, so targeting is a big thing, and I think a lot of people could take away from that. Um, my one, I guess more so from a service business perspective and less e-commerce or like retail. The biggest psychological thing, storytelling for me. I think both of us, uh, you're definitely at a higher level, but I think both of us are great storytellers. For me, one thing that really helped me, I remember I was 23, and how old am I? 25 now. So when I was 23, I was growing my business whilst wrapping up my final year in corporate.
Yep.
So that year I was doing maybe around 200, a little bit over 200K. And I was 23, so I was like going out for dinners, and I was actually making, I was more ironically profitable then than I am now. Because now I'm like, every time we make an extra 10K a month in terms of like recruiting billion, I'm like, new employee. I'm just like, I want my back against the wall.
Yeah.
Because, we already now know we can do because we've generated for our clients, and it's a quick tangent. Because we've already generated millions for our clients, I now know that my first 1 or 2 million is within 6 to 8 or 9 months away. So I'm not worried about that anymore. Now I'm so much more focused on building an infrastructure in which by the time I'm in my late 20s can, without disclosing too much information, can allow me to evolve beyond just the agency model. So back to part about storytelling. So I'm 23 and I had a big churn issue. So I was really good at getting all these clients, right? But I remember one month we had an operations manager that hired overseas. She knows who she is. She might watch this. She was incredible. Nothing her fault. But she had to resign for whatever reason she had to resign for. The month after she resigned, we lost 10 clients in 3 weeks. Bruh. Oh, even saying that is still some, so painful,
no, of course, yeah.
And again, I was fortunate back then. I was still working my 6-figure a year corporate job and that. But that was painful. And I was like, I need a print. Like, I need to recoup this money. My team wasn't as big at the time. It was mainly just virtual assistants, which was still a cost, but it wasn't like what we spend now. So anyway, I'm like, okay, how can I print? What are the things that I have? I know how to sell to a certain level. I can run ads. I can do da-da-da-da. I have this network. I was like, okay. So I was like, all right, what I'm going to do is I need to charge more money, first of all, so I can recoup this loss quick. So even if I close only 10%, then at least that 10% is going to be the equivalent of like 2 or 3 clients before. So what I did was like, okay, I'm going to compile screenshots of me when I was 18, 19, when I was doing the multi-level marketing thing, when I was playing basketball overseas in the States, when I was working corporate, my old bedroom that had a broken bed when I was living in the city, right? Yeah. So I was building a story. And then I was like, and like that build up at the start of the pitch, the end of the intro pitch was like, and here's where I am now, doing a couple $100,000 a year, and like, we're looking at doing our first $500,000, which we ended up doing anyway, like, a year and a half later. So I just started cold calling like crazy, and I've always been doing that. But this time I came in with this storytelling pitch. And what would happen is, again, at the end of the day, I was a 22, 22 and a half year old black guy. So when sometimes, like what it is, being in Australia, a high up healthcare professional, whatever, they see me on a Zoom call, they're like, this is going to pitch me some bullshit. It's not going to be helpful in my business. But when I start with the story of who I am, why they should listen to me, and I go through this arc, this lore, right? Before I go into my services, it really allowed them to be actually to say, wow, well done. And it humanized the whole conversation before I'd go into the pitch.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And that was how we actually ended up consistently getting from like, at one point when I was 22-ish, from the agency side, let's just say a fluctuation between 5 to like 12K a month to consistently like 15K a month plus. By the time I was like 23, it's like 15, 20K-ish a month.
Yeah.
And I was there for a while, then I had to get out of that. But that helped me stay there for a while because I knew if something went bad, I could rely on my story. Because everyone only has their own story. There's so many other things that are commoditized and that you can copy. But your story is not one of those things. Exactly. Now, at the point where we're at now, where we're spending, like this month, we'll probably spend just in salaries, like 35, 40K. Yeah. So like, I can't. The story is great, but that would take up like 10 minutes of the pitch when I'd pitch it back in the day when I had more time. So I don't rely on that as much now because I have a lot more I can show. I can be like, I work with your 3 competitors, you need me. It's a different pitch. But back then, that was really advantageous. So I think learning how to tell your own story really well is one of the biggest hacks to really be able to communicate a service-based business, because that's all you have.
Yeah.
And even yourself, you have some pretty, we don't have to talk about that in depth because we know about some of the things you do and don't want to, but you have your own story.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
100%. And I'm sure you've probably used that to win over deals or.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly.
In terms of moving a bit more to psychology again, when it comes to the importance of surrounding yourself with good people, how important has that been in you getting to the level that you're at now at 26?
I would say the biggest thing is, sales, because I've been doing sales for a while.
100%,
face-to-face, cold calling, that stuff. That was a while. Literally, sales taught me a lot about understanding people's psychology, only because, number one,